Um,
There we go. Uh, that's cool. And then we'll just wait another 15 minutes, see if people show up.
yeah, for sure. I
Cool.
picked out about 10 poems um, from a couple of my books and some new projects I'm working on. So I thought we could start there. And if we need
Cool.
more time, need me to read more poems, I definitely can, you know? So,
Cool. Yeah, I was kind of how I do this is like I ask a couple questions, then you read a few poems, then I ask a couple questions, then you read a few poems,
I love
and then
that.
we just end it with a final poem, whatever you want.
It sounds perfect.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's just
after we talk for a little bit, maybe I'll read like 3 poems or something like that?
that's fine. Yeah, 3 or
Cool.
4.
3 or 4, let's do it.
Yeah.
I just love, like, I just miss people, so I'm so glad that that you invited me to do this because I love talking with you as well, and, I hope that we get to do some shows together and meet in person eventually, you know?
Well, I had meant to ask you to do it earlier, and last month I actually didn't have a show because my guest that I was supposed to have got really sick, and so I just
Wow.
sat it out for a month. But what I've been doing during the pandemic mostly is just handwriting letters to people again,
Oh, yeah? Wow.
which I had not been doing. I probably hadn't done that consistently in like 15 years. And I just been asking people for their address, and a lot of people will send me their email, and I'm like, no, that's not what I mean.
We should send a letter back and forth, that sounds cool. I did that before with some friends a long time ago, but I haven't done that, but I've always wanted to kinda do something like that with poems, like, where you just, like, exchange poems in this old-fashioned slow way. I don't know, I think
No,
it's cool.
no,
Have
I
you
mean I have. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, reminded me, I've been seeing a lot of projects that you've been putting out. What's your next book that's coming out?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess it's just a matter of like whatever gets done first.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
I'll put out anywhere between like 6 to 10 books in a year.
Oh, I know, I know at least 40 books by you. I don't I know there's probably more, but
Yeah, I've done about 65, and but right now I have about 5 or 6 offers on the table. So it's and I'll take most of them. So it's just a matter of what gets done first.
very cool, I love that.
Yeah.
The work ethic right there, that's so cool.
Yeah, I talked to someone about this, I think just like a day or two ago. When I was younger, my anxiety was just so bad
Mm,
that even when I would go to a normal job, I would like throw up before I would clock in.
yeah, yeah.
And so I just started taking the writing more seriously, and that became the thing. And now, like, if I ever had to go back to like punching in somewhere, I don't know really what I would do. It's been a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's
So
so cool that you found that, you know, like, it sounds to me like writing is like breathing and walking and talking to you, you know, and, like, that is so cool.
yeah, how I approach it with the books is interesting. It's probably not how most people do it. Um, I Someone will approach me about doing a book. I'll tell them to give me 8 weeks, and then I'll spend that 8 weeks writing the book they asked for.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
That is so cool, wow.
Uh,
Who, if you don't mind me asking, who are you working with?
right now, I'm doing a book for Concrete Mist.
Oh, yeah, Heath Brower,
Yeah,
right? Heath?
yeah.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
I'm doing that. I'm doing a book for Pedestrian Press in Oakland.
Cool.
Um, and there's also press in Carthage, Missouri that just approached me yesterday. So I'll just space them all out in like 8 week periods. I'll get them all done.
Nice, and are these gonna be chapbooks, or are these gonna be longer, you think?
Those three particular projects will all be full length books.
Wow.
So
So when someone approaches you, sorry, I just have so many questions.
no, no,
When
it's okay.
when someone approaches you, with, like, an offer, do you
Yeah.
have a concept for the book, or do you kinda just give yourself 8 weeks to create this piece of art? Whatever it is.
Um, most of the time I have a concept. Sometimes I do just create from scratch. but a concept allows me to like finish a whole book in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Like if you can wrap your head around one concept, you can get it done. Whereas if you're just writing one-off poems, it's that can be a much longer process. So
Yeah.
let me start
I
letting people.
definitely get that.
Cool.
Because when you do it that way, you know, a lot of the poems may not fit in with your best poems, you know? So,
Well, it's true, and then you have to save those best poems for something else. You
right.
know.
That's been something that I've been working on a full length for about a year. Just one book.
Oh yeah, like if you're just writing one-off poems, like it can take me a year, it can take me 3 years. That's why like having the concepts is a good thing. How you doing, Jack?
Hey, brother, how's it going, man?
Just here talking to Austin. We're glad you're here with us.
Pleasure to be here. Hi, Austin. My name is Jack. Pleasure to meet you, my brother.
Hey, nice to meet you as well, my friend. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Look forward to it. So it
Yeah.
looks like there was going to be a crowd. Where the fuck they at?
It's poetry time. They'll be here. They'll straggle in.
Yeah, we'll be here whether they are or not.
That's right.
Yeah,
There was one
Austin.
time I did a reading for 3 people one time in a coffee shop.
Well, it was
Yeah.
nice. It was nice of your family to show up.
Yeah. It was a couple that I'd never met, and then one of my friends.
Now I live in their basement. John, Fran did a show today with a guy from Ireland/UK named Peter O'Donoghue, Peadar. Do you know him?
Pete Donahue.
Peter O'Donoghue, and it's Peadar, pronounced like Peter.
I know a Pete Donahue, but I don't know an O'Donoghue.
He's got a publishing rag in the UK that's been there since 2010 called Poetry Bus. That you might be familiar with. They do a really artsy, pretty hardcore, like for lack of a better term, outlaw-ish type UK thing that's been around for a long, long time. And they're, constantly banging on the academics and the middle class, and really, really cool guys. So that show should be up like Tuesday or Wednesday. It'll be a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun.
That's sick. Yeah, his name sounds really familiar. You said
Yeah.
Poetry Bus is the...
Yeah, and he goes by the name the Badger. He's the King Badger.
That's badass. That's cool. I'm sure I've met him, but I think I've probably read his poems before. He sounds familiar.
Yeah, he hates poetry and he's very open about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever heard of him because I would have remembered the Badger.
Yeah, I never heard of him either, but he's real good buddies with Fran, so I trust her judgment more than pretty much most people.
Yeah, I had such a great time talking to you and Fran. She's wonderful.
She is, and she's so freaking smart, man.
But yeah, maybe you guys will have to have Austin on your podcast. It's
Austin, the door is open, man. It's social yet distance on Facebook. Track me down if you got some time and you're interested in doing it, man. I'd love to.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm always down to just hang out and talk poetry and read poems. That's
just go to the Facebook page and then send me a message and we'll work it out, man.
Yeah, what's it called? Let me find it real quick.
Social yet distanced, and then you can of course find me. It'd be fine.
Cool.
Yeah, I came on to a reading that Austin was a part of for, I believe it was the Flagstaff Public Library.
Yeah, that was actually with Rosemarie Dombrowski and a couple other really cool Arizona poets. And I don't know if you've ever met Hunter Hazelton or Saria Taylor, but they're both really amazing.
I have not met them, but I remember Hunter Hazelton was on that reading. So
yeah, he actually has a book coming out from Tolson Books. I think it's in May, a couple months from now.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, what really impressed me about that whole thing is just how much joy was brought to the process. I think that I've been doing this so long that a lot of times people are just kind of burned out. And
Yeah. Well, performing and just talking about poetry and listening to other poems, that's like rejuvenating for me. That's what I love to do. So I have missed so much just going to like a friend's poetry reading and just hyping them up and listening to them read and just like that's what brings me joy in life. And doing these is also so amazing and so much fun. So
I had a younger poet stay with me over this weekend who's a friend of mine who I hadn't seen him in about 5 months, and he'd had a nervous breakdown, and it was pretty
Mm.
clear. It was kind of shaky. And we talked about and he asked me what I thought it was going to be like when people could actually go out and do live poetry readings again.
Yeah.
And I told him, man, I think it's going to be like being shot out of a cannon. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, and there was some
definitely.
discussion with Fran and Peter had today about that, and they're saying the same thing, but that they expect to be an added dimension because everybody's so used to the online thing. So you're going to start seeing these events that we all used to go to. Not only will we be able to go in person, but you'll be able to see them online as well, because broadcasting them is nothing now.
Right. Yeah. I think that's going to be cool though, to allow people from other states, other cities to tune in. That's awesome.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no reason in the world you couldn't put up a big monitor and have me at your reading, even though I'm in Florida.
How
Jack,
cool would that
Jack,
be?
I'm gonna do that anyway. But Victor, Cord, it's good to see you guys.
Hey, Johnny, how's it going?
Pretty good. My beard is not looking nearly as good as yours is. Look at that thing.
I know that's the joy of like 2 COVID shots and already running through half the population where I work. They let us grow it back.
Hey, well, I'm jealous of all you guys. I can't grow anything, so
Me
props to
either,
everyone.
Me either. I'm 57 years old and I can't either.
Huh. Cord, how you doing, man? Your sound. You need to turn your sound on. There you are. Huh. Still not.
You hear me now?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, we can.
I fixed it. How you doing, man?
Oh, all right.
Hey,
All right.
Victor, what's up, man? Hey, Jack.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, Austin. How you doing?
Hey, good. How you doing, man? Nice to meet
Good,
you.
man. Nice to meet you too.
I'm really glad you guys came on a Sunday evening. I know it's kind of late and tomorrow's Monday.
It's
And
all good.
this was just kind of when I could do it. And honestly, I've been going through a weird thing where I've been kind of lightheaded the last few days. So it took me till about this time to get it together. So
Yeah, well, I appreciate all of you for tuning in. It's awesome to see everyone.
hopefully, let's see what time we got. It's 5 after. Austin, I'm just gonna start asking you some questions, and hopefully, I can let some more people in as we go.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right. First off, I have to make just the obligatory like self-promotion. You are listening to OAC Books Presents, and this podcast is sponsored in part by Osage Arts Community, which is a residential arts community located around the Ozark Mountains of Missouri. They offer artist residencies that last typically from 1 week to 12 months. And they are currently looking for residents if anyone out there is looking to apply for residency. And I'm John Dorsey, which everyone here knows, but maybe we'll get some random people that don't. Our guest today is Austin Davis, and I've known Austin. Austin, you and I have been talking for probably about 2 years, I would
Something
assume.
like that. Yeah, just through Facebook mostly.
Yeah. And so like today when I was doing research for to this interview, I kind of looked up some more stuff about you. And I read a previous interview that said that you started writing poems as a child, but it wasn't until your sophomore year of high school that you realized that this is the way you want to leave an impact on the world. And one of the things I know about you is that you do a lot of work for the homeless. and those less fortunate. So you're leaving an impact on the world in many ways, and I really applaud you for that. You make me feel lazy. Uh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but given that you're doing so much good, what is it about poetry that makes it the thing that you want to use as a vehicle to leave that impact on the world?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I just know growing up, um, reading poetry is what got me through the hardest times in my life. And I've always really admired uh, poetry and the art form. And I'm not really sure what it is about it, but writing poetry for me is just a natural part of life. I have to force myself to write a story or to write a song or something, but writing a poem is just what comes most naturally to me. And I'm not really sure why, but it brings me a lot of joy. It brings me a lot of rejuvenation to write a poem. And I've always felt like this since I was a kid, even when I didn't know anything about poetry, and I was just reading a lot, just consuming a lot of poetry. It was not only a great escape for me as someone who deals with mental illness, OCD, and depression, but it also, it showed me that words have power, and, words can affect people. Like the first time I cried from a poem, I remember thinking, wow, how did that happen? These are just words on a page.
So when you had that moment of realization around your sophomore year of high school that this is what you wanted to do with your life, who were you reading then?
I remember, honestly, I think the first poet that I really got into, it was like a gateway poet, if you'd say, was Billy Collins, and I really just appreciated the way that he could talk about simple moments, but incorporate a lot of humor and a lot of life into it. So that was the first poet I really read, and from there I just tried to read whatever I could get my hands on. I spent a lot of time in, like, over the summer when I was a kid, my mom would just drop me off at the library, and I'd spend like 8 hours a day every day while like my parents worked or whatever, just reading and writing and sitting in stillness and quiet. And I think that's probably why I really love the quiet now, is because I grew up kind of just reading and being in my own head a little bit.
So, with the work that you do, like outside of poetry, like doing like community work, um, how does that impact what you're writing, and how does your writing impact the stuff that you do out in the community, vice versa? Do they have an impact?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that poetry has always made me a more empathetic person in a way, just by reading about the struggles of others. But I've actually started working on a collection of poems based on my experiences with the unsheltered. And I'm hoping to have it out by the summer, but it's called "The Streets Are Quiet Down in Hell." And every poem in the collection was actually written after I had an experience with someone on the streets. And I honestly, it was a coping mechanism for me, because a lot of the encounters, the experiences that I have are very hard for me to process, and they're very emotional. It's tough to see a dead body, or to see someone overdose, or see a domestic violence situation. Those are nothing really has ever prepared me for that. But writing poetry about those experiences, it helps me process it and move on to the next day, I guess.
Hmm. Now, you mentioned, well, you're talking about the book that you're working on. Now, is that just, I don't know. I guess what I'm asking is, do you have a publisher set up for that book now? Is there?
No, not for that book. So for the latest, yeah, "The Streets Are Quiet Down in Hell," I submitted it to Ghost City Press for their
Okay,
summer
cool.
series, because I worked with them last summer, and they put out this little chat book last summer, and I really love what they do. So I submitted it. Who knows if it'll get picked up, but if it does, it'll be great, because I love that press a lot. And if not, I'll try to find someone else. So we'll
Cool.
see. But I'm working on that, and then a full length called "Lick My Neck and Lie About the Weather," about Yeah. I love the title. That's the first thing that I wrote was the title, actually, which is strange, but
Yeah, one of the things I should have started off with is I knew some of your work, but I did look up your various books and I looked up the titles of those. And Austin is the author of books such as The Second Civil War. Um, and I looked up the book you did on Weasel Press as well.
yeah.
Which when I went into that, it led me to some questions I wanted to ask you. One of which is like, of the books that you have done, do you have a favorite? And also, do you have a favorite poem that you've written?
Yeah, actually, so the first book that I ever wrote was called Cloudy Days, Still Nights, and I worked with Moran Press for my first two books. And if none of you, if you know Stephen Moran, he's just one of the most amazing people in the world. He's just an incredible writer and just a great human. But I wrote that book when I was 17. So I didn't know a whole lot about poetry. I didn't know a whole lot about myself. So each book that I've written has gotten a lot better. Every time I write a poem, I think it gets better. So there are poems from Cloudy Days, Still Nights that I still enjoy. And there are a lot that I'm like, oh, now that I'm older, I definitely could have done that better. I know what I was going for, but I could have done that better. And Second Civil War was, it's a collection of protest poems. So
Okay.
gun violence, racism, white privilege, stuff like that. And the book that came out after that was called The World Isn't the Size of Our Neighborhood Anymore. And that came out from Weasel Press. And my favorite poem from that is actually called Monsoon Season. And it was originally in Second Civil War as well. And I think that was the first poem that I wrote that I really loved, that I was like, this is what I was going for. I had an idea and I was able to translate that. And I didn't think I'd ever been able to fully do that before until that one poem.
Well, since I don't really like the sound of my own voice and I don't really enjoy talking too much, could you please read us that poem?
Yeah, for sure. So this one's called Monsoon Season. The Arizona elements are released from their asylums in July. The wind flips through your favorite book and cries after reading the last poem. It rains and rains in warm, empathetic bursts. And unlike your cold, frightened rain, monsoon rain brings dead leaves back to life. It's the kind of rain that makes me want to profess my love under your window with a boombox. It's the kind of rain that flings doors off its hinges, then eases them back into place at dawn. The world isn't the size of our neighborhood anymore. We've seen starless nights where the moon went to visit Mars. We've held each other on the roof of my car and watched meteors fall from the sky but never hit the ground. Come, sip your black tea as the sky turns to rotting peaches. Listen for the lovers' pillow talking and the water running down our windows. As the light collects in puddles in the street, we can only hope the storm will last more than a couple minutes.
Man, that is a good poem. Really
Well, thank
is.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask you one more question, and then I'm gonna just have you read some poems, which
Yeah, for
is,
sure.
can you talk to me a bit about like you talked about how your work progressively you feel better about it as you go along, and you're far from alone in that. I think, you know, I think a lot of us hate our work, and then, as we write newer things, we always like the newest thing the best, hopefully.
Yeah.
But could you talk a little bit about how um, your work has grown since you got started and what um, you think brought that about other than just time?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, for a while I was trying to, you know, craft these really sentimental images and I don't think that they were, my goal with a poem is to be able to read it or have someone else read it and have them be able to connect to the emotion behind it. Even if someone hasn't experienced that exact situation, to be able to say, I'm human and I've felt in some capacity what you're feeling is a beautiful thing. And that's always the goal. And I definitely don't accomplish that very often. And I hope to, as I grow, to accomplish that in some way. But I think that in my earlier poems, I was writing more solely about my experience in a way that wasn't as connective to those who could read it. So those who were reading it. So I think that as I've grown, I've just been trying to craft, more complete poems using the least amount of words to say the most is a goal for me, a personal goal.
That's yeah, that's it. That's all of the above is a good rule of thumb. So um so yeah, with that I will ask you to read maybe about 4 poems.
Yeah, for
Wh-
sure.
whatever you feel good about. Maybe something out of like an upcoming project that you're working on right now.
Yeah, let's do it. So I'll read a couple poems from the next full-length book of mine, which is called Lick My Neck and Lie About the Weather. So this poem is called Happy Birthday, and I wrote it on the only rainy day of the summer here in Arizona. And I was really drunk on wine, and I was just sitting on the patio watching the rain, and I wrote this poem. And then I edited it because I was drunk when I wrote it. So it's called Happy Birthday. There's a yellow balloon, the color of autumn after snow, bouncing around my chest. I often mistake its rhythm for my heartbeat, so trust me, I know I can't be trusted. Let's play a party game where we have to take turns telling each other about all our fears and mistakes and take a shot each time we wish we had a time machine. We'll be blackout drunk before the guests start ringing our doorbell. Last night, I broke into my old elementary school and left a coffee mug full of wet dirt and seeds in the janitor's closet to see if it's possible for a flower to grow tall and bright under the glow of a light bulb on a string. I've always thought of happiness as being tangible, the most brilliant mango hanging from the highest branch. But if we can't even find the forest, how are we supposed to climb the tree? Each day numbs me into dismissiveness, until my lips are purple from wine, and I'm sitting on the patio watching the rain darken the red brick tiles around my feet. Fill my lungs with hot breath, and we'll blow out the candles together, sing that familiar tune, learn how to pop without a sound.
Man, it's now it makes me want to write a poem for you about how poets in Arizona don't write about the rain.
Yeah. Oh man, every rainy day in Arizona for me is like a holiday. Because it's sunny and hot for like 350 days out of the year, So every rainy day is great for me. I love it. I always write a poem on those days.
Cool, man. I'll let you keep going there.
Yes. So this next poem, it's pretty short, but it's one of the only love poems I've written during the last year. It's called Let's Pretend. Let's pretend we're snowed in, and your little home on 10th and Ash is the only dot of color in purgatory. I want to hold you with both arms in front of the fireplace and talk about why we both find slow dancing barefoot on wood floors so comforting. What do you think about on slow, rainy mornings when the birds seem more valuable to listen to? What can I do when you're feeling sad to make you laugh with your whole body? I'll tell you how I take my key if you tell me what you want to name the plants in the den. The next poem I'm going to read, it's going to be in the next collection as well, but it was also first published in Celestial Nightlight, which came out last summer from Ghost City Press. And it was just like this little 5-poem chat book about how scary the pandemic is. So this poem's called Quarantine. I stand in my bathrobe on the front porch with my coffee. I take out my flask and return it to my pocket as if I were a kid again and everything bad has to be a race. I watch my neighbor stand in her bathrobe across the street, staring at the empty road between us. It makes me sad to think that people are dying every day because of this, and I am getting drunk in the mornings. I miss hugging people. I wonder if Oprah would call that selfish. Last night, I dreamt I was a dog. I don't remember if I was a Great Dane a golden retriever, or a cocker spaniel, but I suppose you can't always know who you are when you're consumed by a search for serotonin. I bounced through the sunny neighborhood with my tail wagging and my ears perked. I chased rabbits, pissed on trash cans, and moved from house to house, being snuggled and loved by mothers, fathers, and children. They fed me half-eaten salmon under their dining room tables, and I think I understood why humans don't want to be human sometimes. At night, I cook chili. I've had chili and gin for 26 straight nights. Why should I change it up now? If I were living in a game show, I'd be pretty fucking close to having green slime poured over my head. I walk around the little apartment and press play on all the cassette players I've hidden from room to room. Above the stove, Aunt Louise wants another slice of pie. Between the sofa cushions, my mother yells at my little brother to pick up his dirty socks. Out on the balcony, I hear Grandma's fist on a bathroom door, and I know my cousin is throwing up in the bathtub. I close my eyes as the voices sink into a rhythm. I feel like I've tripped on a Hot Wheels track and stumbled back into my childhood bedroom, some sort of world I can still understand. I take a deep breath, sit back in my chair, and spoon chili into my mouth. The kids are playing Sandman in the backyard, and I know it's neither light or dark outside. I take a sip of gin from my glass, and for a split second, I've almost convinced myself they're all really there.
Man, it's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wish
The
we-
concept, I got inspired by that poem actually from Zoom, because the idea in the poem is that this character is so lonely, that he puts these cassette players from old family gatherings or whatever in different rooms, and then you close your eyes or you sit somewhere and you feel like you're in this big family gathering, a lot of people. And I just remember one day, I think I was stoned, but someone in the house had Zoom on and someone downstairs had Zoom on, and I remember thinking, wow, it kind of feels like there's a lot of people here, even though we're totally alone, So
Yeah. How many poems are going to be inspired by Zoom by the time we're done?
oh, I know, it's Zoom poems. There's gonna be like a whole genre.
It's true, man. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether Zoom takes a hit and disappears, or whether it continues to be a part of our culture.
We'll see. I'm just excited to see real human beings again, because real humans are the best. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, well, it's better to go out of your house and get that chili at a greasy spoon rather than like the can of it right there.
Exactly. Yeah. So the next poem I'm going to read, it's actually the newest poem I've written, and I have OCD, and I haven't been sleeping well for a long ass time. So this poem is called Obsessive Compulsive Insomniac. I don't remember the last time I slept through the night. I'm so exhausted, my bones feel like soldiers who shot themselves in war and were sent home to their families. When it's late, I walk and do drugs and end up somewhere new. Tonight, I'm at a park in a sleepy neighborhood, and I miss my mom and I hate myself. I puke all over a dead bush. I could wipe it up with the greasy McDonald's napkins in my back pocket, but I don't. The sky is clear, the moon a purple brown. I'm not sure what that means, but if I've learned one thing in this life, anything can feel like a metaphor if you're scared enough.
Man, that's really good. How long ago did you write that?
I think it was a few days ago, maybe last week, something like that. A lot of my poems, I'll have like a first draft if it's a longer poem, and then I'll spend nights. Usually, I'll just take a couple hours every night at like 1 a.m. and edit it for however long it feels like it needs, and then I'll return to it a few days later. But with these shorter poems, sometimes it's kind of just like this initial burst of creativity, and I'll feel something that I can only express through crying or through writing. And so I'll choose to write, and then I'll just write this little thing. And this one actually, I think I edited it the night that I wrote it, and I haven't really touched it since. But I kind of like the way that each image kind of goes into the next in a way that feels concrete. So I think I'm just going to let it sit for a while, and who knows.
Yeah, no, it's a good piece, man. And the ending of the piece is particularly good, which I always think is the hardest thing about a
Oh
poem.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
the end of the
you know,
poem is what makes it, that's what people remember. And that's what makes someone want to read the next poem, and that's always the hardest part is when you don't know how to wrap up a poem, where you have like a great idea or something or a great image, but it's hard to tie it to the beginning. That's always been a problem for me.
well, between the chili that you eat and the McDonald's napkins on your back pocket, you're clearly a good person, so you don't have anything.
Thank you, brother.
Um, why don't you read like two more poems, and then I'll ask you a few more questions.
Cool. Yeah. So this next poem, it's gonna be tentatively in this spoken word album that I'm doing with Damian Rucci, kind of like a split thing where 6 poems from me, 6 poems from him. No idea when we're gonna be able to really, really go into it, but poems like this and a few other ones I really thought worked best on like a spoken word thing. So and Damien's just like super fucking cool. So I'm excited for that. But this one's called Why I Stand on the Balcony and Watch the Taxis Pass By After You're Asleep. 12 was the year my family and I lived in a 2-story condo that looked identical to all the 2-story condos on our street, except our driveway was colored with sidewalk chalk, and our garden hose was always pointed at a dog walker. If it had rained the night before, the boat my little brother and I had built out of a plastic tub, a ball of string, and 20 balloons would be sitting on the sidewalk, ready to sail the backyard. We believed in helium as if it were our religion. Like the faith we had in the stories Granddad used to tell us in the car ride before church, our balloons popped the second we stepped into the boat. We'd sink into the grassy lake and topple over laughing, and Mom would yell at us from her bedroom window as if we had just kneed Jesus in the balls. She'd spray us down with the hose from the front porch, and we'd hop around and hide behind the bushes, leaving an abstract portrait of muddy footprints around the front steps. Feeling cold from the water, warm from the sun, and having a sore throat from laughing too much is the closest thing I've ever experienced to feeling sick, in the same way kick-flipping onto a park bench was sick, or stealing cough syrup and Sprite from the drugstore would one day become sick. 13 was the year I failed math, burned down a tree, and Lawson broke my jaw for calling him insecure after he twisted my nipples purple in the locker room. 14 was the year Gabby and I learned how to kiss each other by her pool and in her bedroom closet and in the community center we snuck into during a quiet midnight in October. If I have kids, I'll tell them to leave a window cracked an inch open today if they ever want to rediscover a place they've been a million times tonight. 15 was the year I stole my dad's Yaris and ended up driving off the road and down the hill of a nearby golf course because I didn't know how to drive stick and I didn't actually know how to drive. I owe my life to the fact that YouTube has some wonderfully informative tutorial videos, and I got the car back in the garage by sunrise without any scratches. 16 was the year I learned that a group of cats is called a glaring, and a sentence finished by a question mark followed by an exclamation point is called an interrobang. 17 was the year I learned that women don't particularly care about hearing of your knowledge on glarings or interrobangs, especially while you're making out in the back of a Corolla. 18 was the year I told Granddad a joke over the phone about 2 guys walking into a bar, where one guy says, ouch, and the other guy says, I didn't see it either. And the next afternoon, Granddad's heart gave out. If I was still a kid, I'd tell myself he just laughed too hard. But now I keep wondering, if the apple was certain it fell from the sky and not the tree, would it believe the stomach is heaven?
Oh man, yeah, that's so fun. Yeah, I know way too much about what girls don't want to hear, and they definitely would roll on
I'm
that.
learning more and more every day, my friend.
Cool. Oh man. Well, yeah, go ahead and read one more there and I'll ask you something that
Cool. So this poem is called Jimmy's High. And as of now, I think it's going to be the last poem in this next full length, but who knows? It's called Jimmy's High. If you point your telescope up on this clear winter night, you might be able to spot Jimmy. He's probably too small to see from your backyard, but hey, you could tell your kids that any one of those airplanes could be him falling back to Earth. Right about now, Jimmy is swimming through nothingness, like he has been for longer than he knows. Back in the rocket on Mars, Jimmy's captain is smoking his fourth cigarette and banging his fist against the table over and over again. The crew is shuffling away to the edge of the little kitchen as their coffee mugs bounce up and down. On Earth, Mission Control is in a code red. Every telescope from New York to LA is focused on finding their stick of hay in a pile of needles. Unfortunately for NASA, a little college newspaper caught word about Jimmy. Within an hour, every news station in the country was talking about this poor boy from Prairie Creek on their evening broadcast. Every kid with a pair of binoculars is straining out their window right about now, scanning the sky until bedtime. When you're hurtling through space slower than Mrs. Huckles rides her electric scooter through the supermarket, you have a lot to think about. For a while, Jimmy screamed. He screamed and screamed, flailing about for God knows how long. Jimmy thought of his mother giving him a hug on Thanksgiving, drinking beer with his friends on the roof, the children and wife he never met. Jimmy cried. He cried so long the blackness began to look like a cape he thought he might be able to grab in his hands and pull away to unveil autumn in his little town, where everything would be okay again. Jimmy thought about movie theaters, wind chimes, school buses, and making love. He thought about being a kid and spending his summers trying to touch the bottom of Wilson's Lake, but never having enough breath. He thought about biting into a peach, falling off a bike, being so tired you pass out on the couch with the TV still on, and how bodies don't decompose in space. Jimmy will be 26 years, 4 months, and 18 days old until the sun explodes. He couldn't wipe his eyes in his spacesuit and helmet, so the tears dried on his cheeks. Maybe Jimmy would be found by a time-traveling orangutan, or a teenage alien who ran away from their planet in the angstiest possible way. Or maybe he wouldn't be found. Maybe that would be just as well. Jimmy closed his eyes and saw nothing but the color of wind. Thank you all so much again for just like being here and listening to my poems. It really, it means the world to me. So
yeah, I feel like yeah, your poems they're fascinating to me. It's a really broad experience, which is a compliment. These days I write in such a regimented way myself that a lot of things fit with other pieces, and these do too. But it's fascinating. It's they're very different. And I was going to ask you, how much of your work do you think comes from personal experience, as opposed to like, I don't know, like pop culture or anything, like, which we can't avoid. It's there. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the greatest tool in writing a poem is memory, because I'll experience something and my memory will warp it in such a way that maybe I'll remember things that didn't happen, or maybe I'll use that memory as a jumping off point to write a story, because for me, a poem is a bridge between personal experience and fiction. And, for me, at least, I use these real moments that happen to me to create this narrative. So everything I write is based on a personal experience. That's what inspires me, And a lot of these poems, I guess it's interesting. A lot of the poems that I just read were based on memory. Like I'll remember an experience, but a lot of the poems that I've written about the homeless community, I've written right after the experience. I just didn't know how to process it, so I'll just write. So I guess it really just depends on the experience, because doing the work with the Unsheltered as I have has been life-changing and totally different than anything I could ever imagine.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I've done work here and there, but not as consistently as you're doing, and not devoting as much of my life as you are definitely doing. So, um, I'm just since we're kind of like at a midpoint here, I'm just gonna say, for anyone else that comes in and listens later on YouTube, because this will be on YouTube, both on my personal channel and on the OAC Arts Center YouTube channel, that this is OAC Books Presents, and you're listening to Austin Davis, who's a wonderful, wonderful gentleman. Um, and I am going to post one of his books up in our a link to one of his books up in our chat um, in a few minutes here. But I want you to remember his name so that you can look them up yourself and check out his work, because I'm really enjoying it, and I think most people will as well. Um, Austin, one of the things I wanted to ask you, it's kind of a big question, but if you had someone come up to you on the street, and you're a guy that would likely have someone come up to you on the street, if they asked you to describe the work that you do, like like in a condensed manner, in like just a few sentences, what would you say to them?
I write a lot about nostalgia, I think. I'm constantly fascinated with that feeling. So I read a lot about that. Yeah, I would say, I try in my best moments as a writer, I would love to translate, whatever raw emotion I'm feeling into that poem. So whether that's joy or love or sickness or pain, my goal is to translate that in a way that, other people can feel and experience and say, God, I've felt that too. You know, we've never met each other, but we're both human on this crazy little ball spinning through space.
Yeah, that kind of answers like one other thing I was going to ask you, which is like, what do you want people to take away from the experience? But you more or less answered that, and it is a matter of accessibility. Um, I often tell people that you can write whatever you want, but what another person is going to get from the experience or come away with is probably much different than what you intended when you wrote the piece.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's so cool. That's awesome. I mean, one of my big goals is to, if I can make someone feel a little less alone in what they're feeling, then I feel like I've done something. I'm not sure what that thing is, but something. So,
No, and I would agree with you. I've said when we were doing live readings, if you can do a live reading and have one person come away truly getting something from the experience, then you've done your job.
yeah.
You've done your job. I
Yeah.
don't care if it's one person.
One of the most just heartwarming, I was at a loss for words. So I've only been on one tour, and it was right before the pandemic hit in March, and it was for The World Isn't the Size of Our Neighborhood Anymore. And I just went to like 6, 7 different cities in Arizona. And my buddies and I just hopped in my van and we just drove around and, slept on couches and in the van. And it was just really fun. But, there was this woman, an older woman, who came to a reading in Phoenix. And then, a few days later, like 4 days later, she came to the same reading in Mesa. And she wanted to talk some more and hear the poems again. And I had never experienced something like that. That was just so heartwarming for me. So
Yeah, I mean, I've been through some of that, and there are a few things that are that touching.
yeah.
Um, and one thing I'm going to ask you, which is while we're here with you, and I know Victor's here. Um, our magazine River Dog that we do once a year in October, we're looking for work until the end of July. And while I have you here, I'm going to put you on the spot and just ask you to send us some work.
For sure. I definitely will. Yeah.
Because man, you're doing really awesome stuff. And
Well, thank you. That's really an honor. I mean, that virtual hug, man, that's really sweet of you to want me to send you some work. That's so kind.
Um, so like, what do you? Obviously, you're reading a lot. You're doing a lot. Um, who like today? Like, if you look around your room, like, who are you reading right now?
I read a really cool book by Terrence Hayes called American
Oh,
Sonnets for
I
My
knew
Past
Terrence
and
Hayes.
Future Assassin. Yeah, and that was a really cool book. There's a professor at ASU named Natalie Diaz, and she wrote a book called Post-Colonial Love Poem, and she's really awesome. But I also read a book. I've been reading a lot of Kaveh Akbar. Kaveh's written a lot of really just fascinating and amazing work.
Yeah,
But
he
right
Kaveh used
now, yeah, I've been reading a lot of short stories as well.
cool.
Short stories, and then one of my favorite books is The Mist by Stephen King, and that's kind of like a comfort book for me. I'm not sure why, but that's something that I've been rereading. Just I've already read it before, but I'm reading it again. So love that book.
Yeah, Kaveh used to edit a publication years ago called The Quirk.
Oh yeah,
And so I've known him for like close to 20 years. And he used to do all of the issues were to benefit one particular charity or another. So he's done a lot of work.
that is
I
so
know he
cool.
donated a lot of money to like UNICEF and places like that.
Yeah,
So
that is awesome. Yeah, I've never met him, but I've just read his poems, and they give me life. So I love that. I've also been reading a lot of slam. As someone with OCD, Neil Hilborn's poem "OCD" that was the first slam poem that I ever heard when I was younger, and that it made me feel like I wasn't alone. I was like, God, someone else feels a similar way to how I'm feeling. I thought I was alone in this, and that's what made me want to perform, I guess. But Button Poetry, they put out a lot of really cool stuff.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, I know how that goes. Like you could have like 1,000 people around, you still feel alone. But the truth is you're not. And
Yeah.
like on a personal level, if you ever feel alone, drop me a message. But
Same to you,
because
man. Same to you.
um, yeah, I just know how it goes. And poetry can add people to your world. And I don't mean that just readings and whatnot, just the things that narratively that you might write about um, bring people into your world that way. So
Yeah.
um, one thing that I was gonna ask is, do you think, living through this age of the pandemic, um, do you think that going through this has changed your work at all, or that it will change your work?
I think so. I mean, I know I need to give myself time for writing and self-care and relaxation, because I think that for a lot of people, the whole work and home thing has really been bridged, because a lot of us are working from home, so it sometimes I think it can be hard to separate those two, because there's always more work to be done, it seems like. So I think that writing is that escape for me. A lot of what I do, I'll just go out at night. For some reason, I feel most comfortable at night when it's quiet and dark, and I'll just go out with my notebook or a book, and I'll just walk, usually barefoot for some reason, and I'll just walk. And whenever I go under a street lamp, I'll write something, and I'll just walk and walk and walk, and it gives me a little exercise, but it also is meditative for me. I tried meditating for a while and practicing mindfulness, but I also have ADD, and I don't take my pills anymore for that, because I didn't like the way it made me feel. But this act of like just walking at night when you're alone and writing or reading and just kind of observing, that's what keeps me going. I try to do that every night.
Yeah, I live out in the woods now, and unfortunately, I can't walk around barefoot because I might step on an
Yeah,
armadillo or bobcat. But
right. That's pretty dangerous where you're at.
yeah, but you can pee outside here, which is the one plus. So,
I know. I do that out here. I get arrested. Come on, man.
but all right. Well, what I'm going to do is I am going to have you read a few more poems, probably about the same amount, and then I'm going to have everyone turn off their microphones, and I'm going to have these guys stick around if they will. and just talk to you and ask you questions, or maybe if they heard a poem they liked, they want to hear another one. Just we can all feel a little less alone tonight, so that'll be good. But I'm going to shut my mouth and not say anything, and I'm going to let you run through some poems.
Cool, thank you. I mean, I already feel very happy, very joyful from doing this, and it's great to be with John. I love John, and it's awesome to meet new people. So I love and appreciate all of you. This next poem I'm going to read, I'll read a couple from the next full length, and then a couple poems about the issue of homelessness, and then we can just talk and chat and stuff. So this poem, what would you say?
Oh no, I was just going to say, I can tell you right now that the guys that are on here with you tonight are some of the best guys that I know. So I'm sure that they will, I'm sure that they share that love and that they'll want to talk to you and have some things to say. So, but I'll let you go.
Love it. Yeah. So awesome. Yeah. So this next poem, it was just published in OK Donkey magazine, which I love that name, but it's called The World Will End Tonight. And it's super short. And I wrote it after having a COVID scare. I thought I had COVID and had spread it to my family, which is a sucky feeling. And I didn't, which was cool. But it's called The World Will End Tonight. The world will end tonight, the weatherman says, when the flower heads twist down at 6:15. Remember that summer of hot breath, open windows, and making love to the sound of bicycles passing by. Kiss me soft as the clouds peel away from the sun like dark yellow apple skins. Let me hold you, run my hands through your hair these last few minutes. Super short, and I think that's going to be the first poem in the next book. So, the next poem I'm going to read is called Pythagoras. Oh, thank you, Scott. Pythagoras. Last night, as I was driving to your apartment, I threw up whatever the hell was in my stomach all over the steering wheel and hit a feral cat. I named her Pythagoras and dug her a grave with my car keys next to a patch of purple wildflowers by the highway. It scared me that I drove away and didn't cry. What's the difference between a handful of benzos and you holding my face in your hands and assuring me I'll be okay? You ever feel like an amoeba in a drop of water on Mars when I'm struggling to keep my eyes open and you notice how much weight I've lost? I keep thinking I'll step out of this rough patch eventually, but the grass has grown so high I can feel it brush along my lips. You don't like how bony my shoulders are, but we still touch each other sometimes with the lights off. Awesome. So the next couple poems I'm going to read are from this next little chat book that I submitted to Ghost City. And they're all about different experiences I've had with different people out on the streets. So this first one, they're mostly pretty short, but this first one is a couple pages long. And it's called Phoenix. And I wrote it actually over the summer. It was the first poem I wrote about homelessness. This red and orange bird rising from its ashes is my home. In its belly, our coldest days are a summer's night to most. Our language is water, ice, gathering inside a Circle K for air conditioning. Two bodies dance in the canal. A shot of Tito's chills the bone. So much skin is washed in the gutters and lakes once we're all asleep. Phoenix, where our rooftops are slanted like wings, but the adobe tile is too smooth to lay on and watch the stars from. Phoenix, where we shake hands, laugh about our shared sweat, admire the shapes of cacti, but never look each other in the eye. Phoenix, where the state capitol is 2 blocks from the tent city, and wealth and poverty are 2 sides of the same street. A mother waters the tumbleweeds with dark brown urine. 2 lovers spoon on the sidewalk. A child thinner than the sycamore branches stares at the sun, but doesn't blink, cry, or look away. We've been caught in the flames for so long, I can only hope we'll still be reborn. And for most of you, none of you live in Arizona, I presume, but the area that I'm talking about is called the Zone, and it's this tent city. Probably of about 1,000 people in all, and it surrounds a shelter, the major shelter in Phoenix, and it's right across the street from the state capitol, which is beautiful and elegant, and the grass is trimmed, and people go in there wearing suits. And right across the street down there, there's 1,000 people who don't know if they're going to wake up the next morning. So that was the first time where I really I stood on the side of the street and I saw both, and I was like, oh my God, what are we doing? This next poem I wrote about a month ago, actually. And as we were talking about earlier, John, this one's definitely based in real experience. It's the title poem from the next chapbook, and it's called The Streets Are Quiet Down in Hell. There's a bridge that runs over the freeway where two brothers sit at night and drink. I share tall boys with them on Tuesdays as the cars whiz by below us. The hum of traffic is like a mother's heartbeat, a soothing pulse that we hope will never slow. So many people are off to houses and girlfriends and sex and babies and families. The first brother says with a cigarette between his teeth. I stare at him, and he stares at the guardrail the city put around the bridge to stop people from jumping. The second brother turns to me, leans in, and whispers, "The streets are quiet down in hell, ain't they?" And that's what I'm thinking is going to be one of the last poems in that book. But I think I'll read maybe a few more from this new book, and then maybe we can just talk.
Yeah. I definitely want these guys to be able to talk to you for a while.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, this next poem, it's based off of a man I met on the streets who had smoked a drug called spice. And I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that, but it's synthetic weed is what they call it. But really, it's just herbs sprayed with a bunch of plant fertilizer, and it's really dangerous, but it's also really cheap. And some dealers will sell it, saying that it's just bad weed, but it's a lot more dangerous. It's very dangerous. So this poem's called Spice. X collapsed forward into the hot asphalt and vomited into his hands. He twitched and writhed as if his body was a battleground and his innards were at war. X's breathing slowed, his eyes shut, and his arms stiffened out in front of him, all crooked and bloody. When the fireman came and stuck the needle in his arm, and he finally blinked awake, X laughed and sobbed and held himself in the middle of the street for what felt like hours, as the pigeons pecked at his dark puke, melting into a stain from the sun. There used to be a statue in the park I would ride my bike past on my way to school every morning, a soldier on a horse flying into the future. The sun had bleached the man's face into a blur of mixed emotions, so I could never tell who he was supposed to be. But I knew from the way he gripped his sword high above his head that he was escaping a world where it cost less to bury someone than it did to save them.
That's so sadly true in this country.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, when I lived in Toledo, Ohio, they sold spice in the gas station for a while.
Yeah, no, I think it was also branded as incense, right? Like people, I think I read or heard something about that. It would be like you'd sell it as incense and say, "Don't smoke this," but people would know that it's spice.
Yeah, I think so for a while, but this at the very beginning, they had no idea that spice was bad in any form. It took a while. And so for a while they just sold it as spice, and it was sold in like local gas stations. And then about 6 months later, they kind of like, maybe we shouldn't do this. So
Yeah, it's definitely scary. I've been with people. A big drug on the streets here in Phoenix is Percocet, but it's laced with fentanyl. So it's like 100 times more lethal than Percocet, and people, a lot of people will crush it up and smoke it or snort it, or you can take the pill, but that's what's killing a lot of people. But spice, it's interesting because when people have a bad reaction to it, from what I've seen, they stiffen up kind of like a statue, and it's really fucking terrifying.
Yeah, none of it's any good, man. Um, yeah, when I was in college, pills were going around like water, and I took my
Yeah,
share. I'm just lucky it was prior to the age of fentanyl.
right. Yeah, fentanyl scares the shit out of me, man.
Yeah, but yeah. All right. Well,
I think I'll read maybe two more poems. Does that sound
yeah,
okay?
that sounds good. That sounds good.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna read one more sad poem, and then I'll read a little happier sad poem.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So this poem is called Richie, and it is written in the shape of an assault rifle, which you can't see the poem, but I'll read it to you. But it's the lines are done in such a way that it looks like an automatic gun, and it's based off a guy named Richard that I met on the streets, good friend of mine. But it's called Richie.
Hmm.
There's a tent behind every rose bush, a body and blanket on every sidewalk. Richie flicks his cigarette and says, "See the thorns? They'll cut them fuckers up if they try to slip me in the night. The flowers are just pretty enough for the cops to let me sleep behind them."
That's really nice.
And that's an actual thing that, you know, people will sleep behind these rose bushes, because, you know, the police usually won't see them when it's dark, and if someone tries to rob them during the night, they'll get cut on the thorns, and someone will see
Yeah,
them.
I remember when I first started reading poetry in LA, I met a guy who was a Vietnam vet who was sleeping inside a hedge bush outside
Yeah,
a coffee shop because it was so
yeah,
big. He could literally sleep inside.
yeah. There are some trees and bushes like that that'll create like a dome, and if you part a little bit and you can get inside, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, dome like. So the last poem I'm gonna read is called "Tell Me About Your Day." We meet up in the library parking lot every night after you get off work at the drugstore. We lay on the roof of my van and stare up at the sky. You call the stars cosmic freckles and tell me that our biology teacher from high school buys extra small condoms, and that the V on the middle of a Valium pill looks like a little heart that wants more than anything to become a circle. I nod and laugh and think about how we're both going to die some night in our sleep and we'll never see it coming. The leaves have no idea they're going to fall. The fish have no idea they're going to be eaten by an unhappy family around a big oak table. And you have no idea that getting to hear about your day for 32 and a half minutes every night is what makes me okay with waking up in the morning. I suppose this is the way living has always been. You think you're happy until you meet that person who makes you notice every ache in your chest. Maybe we should drive my van into the book deposit bin and steal all the books our consciences can carry. Maybe we should make out, or make love, or make up some story about a little home in the mountains with art on the walls, a pineapple pizza cooking in the oven, and 1979 by the Smashing Pumpkins playing on a ham radio in the kitchen. In my mind, you're pulling into the driveway in the same car you're driving tonight, about to lay with me by the fireplace on a rug of pink and yellow orchids. Tell me all about the last 10 hours of your existence and make me feel like the man who cried into the clouds during a solar eclipse and did not go blind.
Cool, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you. This has made my week. This is such a bright spot in my life is meeting people and sharing poems and just hanging out, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna let these guys all on mute. I'm gonna say to Cord, you got a couch poet right here, buddy. Right here.
Yeah, man. I was just thinking about that. I do like I've been doing like pop-up shows for like the winter. I do it's called the Couch Poets Collective. So I've had like a bunch. Yeah, so I've been hosting that. So yeah, it's only going on until May, but I'll bring it back in the fall. It's just kind of like pop-up shows. But yeah, man, we'll get in touch for sure. Definitely, I would love to have you.
Man, that sounds so fun. I'm so down. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, your work was phenomenal.
Oh, thank you
Really
so much.
enjoyed it a lot. Yep.
Thank you a lot.
Victor, how do I found the link to Austin's book. How do I cut and paste it into this chat for everybody?
Control C, man. Control C,
Yep.
and then Control V.
Yep. Control C copy, Control V
Okay.
paste.
All right.
There you go, Victor.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, so actually Celestial
Victor
Nightlight, the
knows
latest
I
thing that I
have
put
no.
out, it's free to download. So that one is
Awesome.
just free, and there's a link to donate to Black Lives Matter.
Cool.
Instead of, there's like an option to tip or whatever, but all tips are going to Black Lives Matter.
Cool.
Yeah, that's great. No, I believe like when you say like the homeless and the unsheltered, like John, like you can attest to this. Like I automatically every time I think about like Venice Boulevard, you know, like we were in Venice and we saw the shelter and all the homeless, and then we went back a few years later and they're like pushing them out. But no, like I completely like, I don't know, a lot of those poems, they resonate like strong, because every time I hear it, that's what I think about. So
Thank you
to
so
be there,
much.
yeah, to be
Glad
there
that-
first and to
Thank you. I
and,
mean,
and
a
to
big
see
goal,
that, yeah.
a big goal for me with the project is mostly just to be a friend to those living on the streets. So I give everyone my number that I meet, and people will call me if they want to hang out, or if they need food, or if they need medicine or a certain thing. And so I see the same people every week, and I meet new people. And the big goal is to be a homie for those in the streets. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And you know, those people, they appreciate that probably more than what you understand. They
They're
do.
amazing. Yeah, some of my best friends in the world sleep on the streets at night, and I've met some of the most creative people in the whole world who are unsheltered right now. I've met rappers and poets and philosophers and people that have just shared their art with me, and I have been blown away, at a loss for words.
Right, like I'm kind of the same way. Like my profession is in with correction, so I deal with, you know, incarcerated individuals. So, you know, I see the same thing. I see so much talent and so much, you know, that just kind of bad break. And like all of us, you know, their circumstances was they got caught, you know, when a lot of the shit that a lot of people do, like, you know, even myself, like I've been just like one situation away from probably being in a situation where they're at. I just didn't get caught.
Exactly.
So
That's what I say to a lot of people who are like, you know, people are homeless because they did something bad or it's their fault or something. And that, no, like life has so many unforeseen circumstances, you know, and most people are on the streets because something bad happened that they never could have known would happen, you know, and
Awesome.
it's not your fault that you're experiencing that, you know.
Now, Austin,
Right,
did
right.
you do this before the coronavirus, or were you like, well, starting to write this book prior to the COVID, or did you do it like actually right when it was happening?
Yeah, so I've been writing these poems during COVID.
Okay.
So yeah,
that
it
probably
actually took
affected
me.
you.
It took me a long time to write the first poem in that book because I knew I wanted to write about these experiences, but I didn't really know how to process it.
Yeah.
I'd never really experienced stuff like this before, so I needed to give myself time to just sit with my memory and experiences. And now I'll get to a point where I'll do a day of outreach and then I'll go home, or I'll just sit in my car and I'll write. And it's kind of like that's an end of the day practice for me now, is outreach, morning, afternoon, night, and then writing, and then, you know, so most of these poems were written in the last couple months, actually.
Austin, I'm a member of that club as well. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
hear
we
you,
hear you,
Jack.
Jack.
Yeah, you know, I'm an addict with over 20 years sober. I'm dying of cirrhosis of the liver because I drank so much and did so much dope. I'm a retired addiction counselor, and you know, every day I spend in service to be a homie, just like you say.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest and say, you know, I was curious about your poetry, and like I do with everything, I get the invite and I go and I read about this kid Austin and what's this guy all about, and it wasn't the poetry that got me. you know, I see a kindred spirit who's out there doing, you know, the good work and touching lives. And that's what it's all about. And that makes me real happy. And I just want to say that and say, I appreciate you doing what you're doing. And not only the bonus is that the fucking poetry is awesome. So
well, thank you so much, Jack.
that's really all I got to say, because I'm going to save the good shit for my podcast.
Thank you so much, Jack. That really means the world to me. So, you know, as everyone is, I'm just trying my best out here, you know. So,
yeah, I'm just gonna let people know that I did put a link to Austin's book into the chat window. Thank you guys for helping me out there, because I'm a technological idiot. So
So Austin, I got a question. So
Yeah.
what's going on? Like, let's put COVID aside. What's going on down there in your area with poetry? Like, what is your outlets? I
for
mean,
sure.
if it wasn't Zoom or other online stuff, like, where would you be in regards to sharing your work?
Yeah. So I used to perform, and I have even during the pandemic. There's this bookstore out here called Lawn Gnome Publishing, and they run this poetry slam every Wednesday called the Phoenix Poetry Slam. And now it's transitioned. I think it was on hiatus for a while, but now it's transitioned to there's a stage set up right outside the bookstore, and people gather wearing masks, of course, and you can only sit with the group you came with, and everyone is like at least 6 to 10 feet apart, and it's a pretty big area. And people will come up and share poems, and it's like it's a poetry slam. So I've done that once during the pandemic, and I'd like to do it some more. I'm usually working on Wednesdays, but I used to do that when I was living. I go to ASU, and when I was living in Tempe, which is the college town, I used to take the subway, the light rail, to that bookstore to perform or just to listen Wednesday nights after I got off from class, and that was really cool because I'd never been to like a live poetry slam before. So I also there was like this bar downtown that I was like 18, but they would let me perform there. So I did that a couple times before the pandemic. It was called like Art Night, and I'd be excited to do that again eventually. But there's just a lot of amazing creative people in Phoenix. It's very vibrant. It's a very vibrant arts town. So as well as Tucson. Tucson is about an hour and a half, 2 hours from where I live. And there's some really cool poets there, and just like really awesome bookstores and everything. So I'm excited for after post pandemic when we can gather and just come to a bookstore or something. When I went on my tour, I did shows at like coffee shops and libraries. I went to like a different library in a lot of different cities. There's this city called Flagstaff, which is up in the mountains of Arizona, and it's so beautiful because it's so different from Phoenix. It's like it snows there and it gets cold, and it's all pine tree, and it just feels like completely different from what you think of Arizona.
Right, right. So if you had an opportunity, like I'm thinking, like you have an opportunity to be in any city, any place, and read your poetry, where would that be? What is your ideal, like, I'm gonna go read my poetry, I'm gonna read it in the place that I choose? What would you choose?
Well, it's funny because after my March tour of last year, I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go to California, and I'm gonna meet up with poet friends there, like Kevin Ridgway and other just like cool people, and we're gonna do shows and like I started like asking people and booking, and none of that fell through, of course. But I would love. The beach is one of my favorite places in the world, so I would love to just like hop in my van with my best friends and just drive along the coast and stay. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to do it now because of COVID, but before COVID, I used to stay at these hostels, which is like, it's like a house with like a patio, and like a bunch of people would come sleep, and it's like bunk beds, and you sleep next to like a ton of strangers. And this was way before the pandemic that I did this, but that was my idea. I was like, I'm gonna stay here, and it's like $15 a night or something, and we're gonna drink tequila at night and have fun. And So I don't know. Who knows what the future will hold? But I would love to go to the coast. And I have really bad allergies, but for some reason on the beach, I feel like I can breathe and I feel happy. So
I can tell you that your expectations are right on par with poetry.
yeah,
Like staying in like low like places like Johnny, what's the Silver Moon? That's great. Santa Rosa, New Mexico.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
get a
It's like-
hotel for $25.
oh, I love it.
It's it's perfect. Like,
That's
but no,
amazing.
man.
Yeah,
But
I'm
no.
excited. I would love to just, go on tours in different cities and meet up with all of you and do shows and just have a good time,
Yeah, you have to do something in Amarillo, Texas, because you will never find a cheaper motel in the United States.
Right.
I think that's where Damien and I were actually planning on meeting up if we ever did a tour. We were
Of
planning on
course
meeting
you are. Of
in
course you are.
I don't know if it was that city, but I remember him saying like, "Let's meet in Texas." And
Yeah, Amarillo is the home of the $20 motel.
cool. Well,
Get a
I will make a note of that because I'm all for $20 hotels.
Yeah, Victor and I nearly died
Oh my God.
because we saw a tornado.
Like
Oh,
we drove
wow.
through a tornado. It was like we saw it. We like literally like drove right through the heart of it. Like
Holy
we was,
shit.
we was driving through Amarillo and we was coming up on like I could see in the distance like it was looking really fucked up. And I woke John up. We was traveling. I think we was traveling over to Santa Fe, Albuquerque. We had a weekend readings there, and I was like, John, and I was like, maybe we'll like the road to turn and we'll be good. And it didn't happen that way. So we drove right into this tornado, and the sun was shining like right into us because it's like 5-6 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And so the sun is shining like so orange and bright, like that's all you could see. And the rain was so hard, and I couldn't see beside me either way. I couldn't see the turnoffs, couldn't see the exits, couldn't see nothing. And we just kept driving, and like literally, I just kept going straight, like something could have hit me. I didn't know if I was in a lane, and so we make it all the way through Amarillo, and finally we get a break in the rain. And this is probably the most nerve-wracking like ever. Like it's so bright. Like just imagine like just stick an orange in front of your face and stare at it till your eyes go cross. This is what it was. And we get through this, and like so many cars are just under the overpasses. They've stopped. Like they were listening to like the Amarillo radio station that said, "Don't fucking drive." So we end up stopping like a few miles outside of Amarillo, and we stop at this gas station, and we go in, and like it's crazy. Like the local sheriffs are there making sure this gas station's all right and there's no damage, because they're like, literally a tornado just came through. And I'm like, no shit. Like we just so it was like one of the craziest. Like Johnny and I just about die, but we make it through Amarillo, we make it through the tornado, and we hit the Silver Moon in Santa Fe. I think we crashed for the night, and the next day we met up with Macker, and we drove over to New Mexico. But yeah, it was like literally the scariest probably 15 minutes. It may have been like 7 minutes. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was like literally the scariest driving through this fucking. Yeah, that's the Amarillo story.
That's
Other
crazy. And that's the kind of thing you never expect to happen when you're driving through this little town. Who would expect that you'll be hit by a tornado?
Yeah, like literally, I couldn't see nothing. But it was all said and done. Like before it was, a big thing, other than like, hey, we're driving through a rainstorm that we can't see shit other than it's like super orange. But yeah, we drove through a tornado in Amarillo and we survived. So Fuck you, tornado.
Wow.
We'll,
Did that inspire any poems from those who
I
experienced the
was
tornado?
just about to say that.
Yeah. No. I haven't written anything about it.
Not
no,
yet.
I can tell you I didn't either. No, yeah, we'll get you out there, man. We'll get you in the car. We'll all do it once we can. Yeah, I was in a
cool.
car years before going to a poetry reading that jackknifed on the freeway in San Jose in the middle of a dust storm. So you just
Wow.
never know.
Yeah, Johnny and I we took off. We had a reading in Chicago, and we was literally like, what was we? We was like literally 15 minutes from the venue in Chicago on like I-55 North, and like Google Maps says we were 15 minutes away. We were like an hour and 20 minutes from the destination because traffic was so fucking bad. So we're in traffic. We're in traffic trying to make it that last hour and 15 minutes, doing 12 miles an hour.
Oh,
And my radiator fan, like the coolant fan, bust, and the blade shot through the radiator.
oh my
So,
God.
yeah, it like blew up the car. So we finally pulled over to this little like on ramp on the 55 North, and so we're sitting like in the on ramp, that like little painted triangle between the traffic and the ramp coming down.
Yeah,
we get
yeah.
pulled over. Yeah, we get pulled over, and the first tow truck, I call roadside, and mind you, it's July, late July in Chicago, and it's like 95 degrees, 180 on the fucking concrete because they had just paved it. So the first tow truck pulls up, and he says, "Where you guys want this towed to?" And luckily we had some friends from Indy and from Buffalo that had come to Chicago for the reading. So they go like 2 blocks over from the reading, and they're like holding this shop owner, this auto shop owner. They're like holding him hostage, like, y'all can't leave, they're coming. And so we tell the guy, the first tow truck that drives pulls up, and we've been sitting there like an hour and 15 minutes. He pulls up, "Where you guys going?" And we tell him Bucktown Auto. That's the place, Bucktown Auto. And he says, "Well, that's in the city." I'm like, yeah, we know. And he says, "I'm not going in the city." He gets in his truck and fucking leaves us. Like,
Oh
he
no.
leaves us. So I have to call roadside back, and roadside sends another one out. But like literally, like that's 3 hours we sit on the side of the road because the fucking
Wow.
coolant fan blows up. So
Were you still in that triangle? Like between the
the whole time,
Wow, that's awful, man. That's crazy.
yeah, like we can barely open the doors because of traffic coming down the ramp and traffic on the interstate. Like we could barely, like where the car stops. So yeah, I mean, it was a whole fucked up deal. Like we
Yeah.
end up getting pulled over. We go with friends back to Indianapolis. We like sleep an hour. We get up, we come all the way back to Chicago. Johnny, you remember that trip?
That's a long drive. You went back to Indianapolis? That's where I'm from, actually. So you went back to Indiana and then
Yeah.
back again to Chicago?
Yeah.
We we had a friend from Indianapolis who drove us from there back into Chicago, and I had to catch a train to California. So Victor dropped me off at the train station, and then he drove the whole way back from Chicago back to Missouri.
Wow.
But I'll tell you this: I would rather go through a tornado again than go to the city of Chicago. Those people, I'm done with them.
Yeah, definitely. Like Chicago is a C word. I've said that. Like Chicago is the C word.
Wow, it sounds like all of you have
Yeah.
traveled a lot, been around the country, done a lot of shows.
Yeah, thousands at this point for me. But
That's so cool. That's awesome. That's the dream, I think that's so awesome.
Yeah, and that's great that that's like kind of one of yours, to get out and to do this, because I think your poetry is great, and to get out and kind of experience, like, like myself, from where I'm from, we don't have the necessarily the unsheltered or the homeless. Here in this small, and it's pretty rural, this area where I'm at. But to get out and to see the Chicago's, or to see the Venice Boulevard, just over in West Venice, or to roll in at 2 in the morning into New Orleans, into to an area where you're going to hang out that's was ravaged by Katrina, that's never been repaired. There's
Right.
still people living in that. But to get
Yeah,
out and just
100%.
to just get out and see, America, that, they say the beautiful, but there's so much pain and what they say the beautiful that people's living. So yeah,
Very
and I think
cool.
it's great. Yeah, I think it's great that's an aspiration for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, most of the work that I do is just centralized in Arizona, but a buddy of mine, he runs a nonprofit called Let's Be Better Humans. And he has this big bus, this big colorful bus. And we actually just went to Mexico to aid asylum seekers there. So that was life changing as well. And I can't speak for him, but I know that, he's traveled a lot more than I have, but I definitely want to go to every city I can, and just experience and talk to people and be there,
It's great.
Well, there's room in the back seat for you. That's what
Yeah.
I'll say.
That's right. That's right. Like Johnny and I are itching to get back on the road. 2020 really fucked us over.
Yeah.
Um,
We should meet somewhere. Let's meet somewhere and do a show once it's safe,
yeah, I'm game.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what are your plans next Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, next Saturday we will be at the Gus's world famous fried chicken in Lexington, Kentucky. Yeah, we're gonna meet up with Jason Baldinger,
Oh yeah.
the Pittsburgh poet. Yeah, we're just to get on the road. Like literally, we're gonna drive there, eat fried chicken, find a hotel for one night, and come back.
I love
Just-
that. That's so cool. Wow.
Just because the Zoom can only do so much.
Definitely. And I don't know about you guys, but I love traveling and road trips and just driving. So
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I can't wait for live shows again. I miss that so much.
I'm
it's
with
gonna be
you, Cody.
crazy. All the cooped up poets are just gonna go wild.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very special day when we're finally out.
Yeah.
Cord, you and I are gonna pull Charles Joseph out of his home.
Hell yeah, it's happening. We're driving right up to Montclair, and we're gonna find him, man. He's hiding.
Kidnap his ass.
He like retired. I don't. We're gonna find him. That's yeah, that's uncalled for.
You're on the road, yeah.
Yeah, see, we can get Austin and Damien to like put him into a burlap sack and throw him in the trunk of a car, and let's go
We'll
do
get
it.
him.
I have a
we're
very
the
big
Jersey
minivan.
guys. We're the mafia. We'll find him.
we know people.
Good fellas.
The Rebirth Tour.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so desperate down here in Dallas. I'm pissed I missed the Zoom show. Damn it. I was
Hey,
an
Paul.
hour late. Hey, what's going on, y'all? Yeah,
Hey,
I get it. Hey, John. My claim to fame, and Cord, you may have not heard me say this before, that always catches people's attention, but it's true. I met John Dorsey when I was reading poems in a burlesque house in Milwaukee. But the sweet part about it was the person, let me try to be sweet about it. The person who was hosting that night didn't really take care of things the way they were supposed to. So the sweet second part of the story is, I said to myself when I got home, that Dorsey fucker, it was a weird night, but I'm going to send him some of my poems to show them what I'm really like, because I knew there was something there. And that's really, so it's funny to say I met him in a burlesque house, but it was really that there was this little, I'm like, my little poet heart needs to reach out to this guy.
Yeah.
And I send him some shit, and it was, oh my God, he came down with the craziest motherfuckers, and we had some shows here in Dallas. So y'all are welcome whenever, in 2072 that they get around to giving me a shot.
When I met John, it was in Montclair. It was actually at that show for Charles, like a few years ago. And I knew of him, but I never met him in person. And I don't know, we were on tour, and I remember we were at like some diner, and we both got French dips, and you just took it and just fucking shoved it right in the juice sauce and just like ate it. And I was like, this guy is awesome. Like I'm thinking to myself, like sitting across watching that, and I'm like, that is awesome. So we've been ever since. So
that was a great sandwich, and I will say like in Milwaukee at that burlesque house with Paul was one of the few people there that was really nice to me. I can remember that, and he was just all wild and crazy, and he had these drink tickets for free whiskey, and he was like, "Man, I have plenty of money. You just take these drink tickets." So, man, I drank my fill, and I think MJ Taylor drank his as well.
That's saying something.
He's really
got weirder from there. Yeah. Oh, sweet MJ. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's a sweet young innocent.
Yeah, buddy.
He makes all my dad feels come out. He was on the couch for the first time just to be in the open mic. And am I doing this right? Am I doing that right?
And
like,
Tom McCallis is in the background saying, "Hurry up, man! Hurry up!" Like Tom McCallis is just like, what? I'm just like, dude.
My whole demeanor changes, and I'm like, "You will give that young man a moment."
Yeah, he was on the open mic for the Couch Poets, and he was like, "Am I doing this right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man." And like Tom McCallis is in the background, just like screaming. Yeah,
but while he's doing it though, he's looking as pretty as like some French model in a Vogue layout. So you're wondering, is he really asking if he's doing it right? Because he looks fucking better than all the rest of us.
We're all just like sitting there. It's like we're all in the dark. It's just like it's hilarious.
Right? Yeah, it was. The couch is good times for Zoom World.
Zoom World, yeah. For now.
So you got is MJ coming up next weekend?
Yeah, he's coming up next week. Lynette's reading. I don't know how she does it, dude. It's like 1 a.m. I'm like, you're crazy.
Right, yeah. That's crazy.
Well, her and Mark Pierce. Mark Pierce is doing that shit too.
I know.
Yeah. So Austin, yeah, like Cord has this Zoom reading next Saturday. We'll send you the link, or
man.
Cord, if you want to throw it in now.
Yeah.
But Austin,
please.
like jump in, join in.
Victor, you have to hit Control V, right?
I would love to. I've seen the Couch Poets before, and it sounds so fun. So
yeah, man, we're just gonna hang,
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm gonna grab a drink real quick, but I'll be right back.
Grab one.
Grab it.
I've just been sitting here with orange juice because I'm middle-aged. I hope that Austin has something a little bit stronger.
Paul,
Juice.
how are things down your way?
What's that, Victor?
Yeah, no, I was yelling out for juice in honor of Nadia, but blessed. So we're all Yankees. We're all Yankees. I grew up somewhere where like cold is death. So I cannot believe the state leadership of Texas set it up so that they could privatize, make the fat cats make a bunch of money and shit not work when it gets a little cold. We were lucky in my house, but I had 6 people and 3 dogs the size of horses over because my adult kids were in a house that had no power and water for 36 hours, and they almost killed themselves with a bag of charcoal in a fireplace.
Dude, I was worried about you, man.
Yeah, we were good. Theoretically, is it because like, oh, 1,000 yards over is a fire station that our grid never went down? Maybe. I don't know. That was somebody's kind of theory, but tons of people over here. Nadia's place just up the road her and Dan got down to like 40 degrees inside. It is just fucked up.
I was seeing
And,
pictures of like cars just like because the pipes were bursting and cars were just like ice. It looked like Mr. Freeze, man. It was just like ridiculous.
Yeah, my pipes froze, but I got lucky. Nothing burst here.
Oh, they're the worst.
cool.
Yeah, I didn't have water for about 6 days, but it was all right.
Yeah.
Victor, John, Everett Maddox, dude, he's awesome.
Oh,
I'm
my God.
in the middle of reading that book. I'm so happy you showed me him. Oh, so good. I'm happy. I don't want it to end.
Have you heard the story about the time Everett Maddox's tombstone got stolen?
No.
So
Victor?
it all starts when Johnny and I go to the Maple Leaf in August of 2017. Was it 17, John?
It was, yeah.
All right. So if you know Everett, so you know his tombstone is it just sets in the back on the back porch of the Maple Leaf, where they hold the open series every Sunday. So the features for the Sunday we showed up in August 17, they canceled. So Johnny and I get to read. So we're reading on the back porch of the Maple Leaf, and I think my profile picture is still of my beer sitting on Everett's tombstone. He was a mess. So afterwards, like, everyone leaves John and I alone. So that's probably a bad thing to do at a place where someone such as Everett just roamed. So I start looking at this side alleyway that's unlocked that sits right next to where my car is parked. So I'm like, you know what? I bet you we can steal this fucker.
Oh my God.
But the thing is that Everett's tombstone is heavy as shit.
Oh, I bet.
So I get it picked up to my knees. I'm not strong enough to get it bucked up to my waist where I could support it. So I literally pick Everett's tombstone up. I've got it like lifted up to my knees. And I'm like, John, watch the alleyway. Like, we can take Everett's tombstone home with us. So we get it up to my knees and decide that it's probably best right there because I can't carry this. It's heavy as shit. But if I had been stronger, Everett's tombstone would be in the backyard with my flock of ducks right now.
That'd be awesome.
So
next time.
I'm a known souvenir kleptomaniac. The things that I have taken on our various road trips, they're all pretty cool. I have a giant paper chicken in my house that I stole from a Hunt Brothers pizza shop, amongst various other things. So
and the poor bastards who work at the cemetery where Bukowski is buried.
Oh yes,
made a mistake and put out all the cones and banners and flags and stuff for Bukowski's the day of his death, like to celebrate this the day that John and I show up. So we got some souvenirs there.
He's buried in what, California?
Yeah. They all the famous people where he's buried, they put like an orange cone in front of their graves so that tourists can find them. But I stuck the cone from Bukowski's tombstone under my shirt, and I wasn't fooling anyone. I asked Victor if he thought anyone would notice it, and he was like, yes, of course, they're going to see this. But I managed to get it.
Yeah.
That's
we
awesome.
we sat there and we drank a beer and we hung out with Bukowski and like plotted like, all right, like the the security guards and everyone has gone. They're not coming back for another 10 minutes. Like, John, it's time to go.
Time to
You
go.
know, stick it under your
That is
shirt.
awesome.
Let's go.
So now, if any of you come visit me, you can sign the Bukowski cone. I have it by close to my bed here, and I'll give you a Sharpie. And anyone who comes through,
The Bill Burrows,
Does he
the
have
William S.
Oh,
The William S. Burrows. We read it at Bill Burrows' gravesite. John and I did. It was a reading that was put on. So we're reading beside the tomb of Bill Burrows, and someone had just randomly placed some green sunglasses
that's right.
on the tomb. So, of course, Johnny has them too.
You can also sign them.
You could. That'd be a little bit more difficult, but yeah, I have a little treasure chest. I
Yeah.
have a little treasure chest from the highway.
just come to John's place and sign all the souvenirs.
This is random things.
That kind of
So-
makes carrying a screwdriver in my pocket so I could steal photos off the wall at Applebee's seem kind of lame.
I mean, we can still do that, Jack. But-
I love that stuff, man. Oh, what is it? Cracker Barrel? They're my bitch.
There is a pancake house in Toledo, Ohio, that for some unknown reason has a framed signed photo of Patrick Swayze on the wall.
Oh my
And,
God.
Not anymore.
No, they still do, but one day it will be mine.
I worked for a magazine called the Platinum Magazine once upon a time. They had a bar. Their whole goal was to be the Playboy Club of the South. And for 3 years after the club went out of business, I watched the sign for the appropriate time I could go and climb the telephone pole and steal the Platinum Club sign from my apartment.
Yeah, man.
Probably the best thing that I own, and Victor, you might concur with this, is I have that the Blake McIntyre card.
Oh, from Jerry's in Weatherford. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a cardboard kind of trophy that someone made for a gentleman named Blake McIntyre in Oklahoma who proclaimed that he had eaten 20 pancakes.
Nice.
And they just stuck it. Like, this is a 24-hour diner. So if you ever go through Weatherford, like, they have the best like pot roast, period. Like Chrissy for Mother's Day, she's like, I'm like, what do you want to do? She's like, I don't care. I'm like, get in the car. We drove 7 hours from Missouri to Weatherford, Oklahoma, just for the pot roast. It is
Wow.
that good.
So
So yeah. So they're like a 24-hour diner. So if Johnny and I ever head down south, we plan the route through Weatherford, to the point where like the waitresses know us.
oh wow.
So I pay for everything and go take a piss, come back out and get to the car, and Johnny's holding this sign, and that's what it says. It's like Blake McIntyre, like, congratulations, like, you ate 20 pancakes. So Johnny has it. So like, we both write poems about it, and like, it was looked up like he was some like senior local high school football player or something, wasn't he, John?
Yeah, he's like a football star that's like all conference now. Yeah, someone put his Snapchat on the back of it, and I've had a couple people like randomly Snapchat photos of themselves with the card to Blake.
My God.
But I've never gotten a response.
So we just hope Blake's crying somewhere, like, where is my trophy, bitches?
Oh
Yeah,
my
come
God.
on.
Gotta hope he succeeds in sports or he's coming looking for his moment of glory.
I
Yeah.
really hope he makes it to the NFL because I'm going to make quite a bit of money off that
You will.
cardboard trophy.
Exactly.
Yeah, even if you don't like football, John, just follow that guy.
Yeah.
But no,
and
that's
yeah.
but
go
yeah,
ahead, Victor.
no, that's what's great about the road, Austin, is like, you just got to get out there. Like, there's so much stuff that comes, and like I would never think like I would be where I'm at so many years ago, and the things I've experienced and the friends and the friendship that I've built from poetry, but it is there. And that's the biggest thing. Like just be true, just write your words, and everything else that follows is just fantastic.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. I'm so excited. I've been itching to just go on a 6-hour drive or something and go somewhere and read poems to strangers with friends. I can't wait for the day to do that.
Yeah, and it's a great feeling. Yeah, it is. Like I said, Johnny and I are getting ready to take off this weekend and drive 7 just for fried chicken. So
Love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll have people sometimes when I invite them to a reading where they won't come because it's like 2 hours away. And I'll be like, well, you don't really care that much. Like 2 hours, that isn't anything.
Ashno taught me that laundromats were the best because you got that captive audience. Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's such a really smart.
that's right. But one of the best, Paul, when we was heading down, John and I was heading down to I believe it was for the wedding for when you and Rev got married. And John, he's fallen asleep in the passenger seat this Saturday, and I smack him like, John, what the fuck is that? What is that? And we drive for what seems like half a mile, and we get up there, and it's camels in the middle of Oklahoma. Like
Wow.
there's so many camels just running in this field like they're cows. There's so many of them. But yeah, like that was a great moment. Like, what the fuck is going on?
That's insane. Never
Yeah,
would have expected that.
I think it was some crazy billionaire that had camels like brought in to his like ranch in Oklahoma, but it was very unexpected.
They're the biggest ostriches I ever saw. Yeah, I'm so old. One of my favorite road stories. I was working different satellite cities for Southwestern Bell Yellow Pages, and this old time rep, Mike Felker, that fucker was always ribbing me. He was always getting the practical jokes. So I was driving. It was dark. He was asleep in the front seat, and I see a semi that's towing another semi.
Oh
so the semi getting towed facing us, Mack truck.
Right.
So I just figured, well, it's my time to finally get him. So I wake him up and I'm screaming, like Sam Kinison. And it looks like the Mack truck is coming right for us as a head on, as he fucking wakes up and shits himself.
Lord.
Yeah, we couldn't find a bathroom. He didn't have a change of pants. It wasn't
That's
great.
so good.
That is hilarious. Oh my God. That's the perfect opportunity.
It was a great moment.
No
It was
often are you
on the road.
behind a semi towing another semi.
And that's just lesson number one. Always keep a spare pair of pants.
Yeah, in the glove box.
And if you don't have one, visit Cloverdale, Indiana.
That's right.
John and I were on the road, and we stop, we get out, like we walk around the car, like we've been driving for hours, so we know they weren't there when we went in. We come out of this KFC, and what is laying like right near the car, like this pair of some men's underwear, right?
Nice.
Just
Like fresh, unworn, like folded men's
unworn,
underwear.
folded, just like literally right at the car, just to remind us that yes, you have clean underwear. You're good.
The sign.
That's hilarious.
My Indianapolis story. Oh, I love the movie Hoosiers. So
That's
I go
my
down.
favorite movie, man. I love
A
Hoosiers.
friend had a booth at Shipshawana. The Indiana guy will know. It's the world's biggest Amish flea market. So I'm reading poems in a booth at the world's biggest Amish flea market. And so afterwards, some friends from Indianapolis, they're like, you love this movie Hoosiers. You should go to this bar with us. And it was owned by that kid, Jimmy Chitwood, who was the star of the little school that beat the big school that the movie's based on.
Yeah.
And on the bar, the drink coasters, on the coasters written, there's always time. for one last shot.
Oh,
And that's
Nice.
my Indiana basketball story.
that is so cool. Yeah, I love Hoosiers, and I've actually all my family lives in Indiana, so whenever I go there, there's actually the Hoosier gym, and you can like play basketball there. So I always meet my family there, and we shoot hoops there.
Nice.
I'm gonna get going, guys. I gotta get up and teach tomorrow. So I'll see you later. I'll see you guys next week. Austin, nice to meet you, man. That was a great set.
Thank you so much. Great to
John,
meet you as
Jack,
well, man.
Paul, I love you guys. I'll see you later. Okay.
All
Be
right,
safe.
later.
Yeah, man.
Cord.
Great to meet you.
See you next
Thank
week.
you.
See you
Thank
next
you
week.
again
All
for
right,
coming,
See you
brother.
next week.
All right, I'm gonna head out. Sorry I missed the set, but I get the feeling like I know your poetry now. So anyway, all
Great
right,
to meet you, Paul. Thank you for coming, man.
hey, no
And
problem.
I'll
Y'all
be
have fun.
back to bail out too.
All right, bye.
Later, Paul.
Austin, appreciate you, brother. Good
I
stuff
appreciate you
going
as
on,
well.
and I
Appreciate
will,
all you guys.
yeah, follow up with
I
me, man. Let me know what's up. All right.
Yeah, let's do a reading or a podcast or something together, man. That'll be
Sounds
fun.
great, man. I sent you links and stuff, so come see me.
Let's do
Good
it.
night, gentlemen. Enjoyed it. Thanks so much,
Yeah,
John. Good to
later,
see you
Jack.
Later, man. Peace.
Good to see you, Jack. And I know all of you guys are just leaving to go get your own fresh pairs of underwear now, but
Man, well
Been
that
good to
was
have
so
you here.
that was so much fun, man.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Austin. Yeah, that's
Thank
This
y'all
is
so much
Pope.
for having me. You know,
yeah.
I needed a good like hang out with people and do a reading and just talk and stuff. That was fun. So
cool, man. Yeah, I'm a little bit more freeform about all of it. I kind of get nervous when I get into it, and I tend to forget things. But hopefully this time I didn't forget too much.
no, it was a lot of
Um,
fun. I mean, I just love talking and reading poems and hanging out with good friends, you know. So
Well, you won't meet better guys than some of those guys that were on tonight. And
yeah, for
if you
sure.
and if you and Victor haven't talked much, there's a super good guy right there. So
Yeah.
And this is what it's all about, Austin. It is poetry. This is what it is. Just hanging out.
Love it. Yeah, I'm excited for when all three of us can do a show together. That's gonna be a great
Yeah,
day.
yeah. Yeah, let's do that.
yeah, well, hopefully soon, man. Hopefully soon. If this
Victor,
goes,
are you at OAC as well, Victor?
No, I'm about 2 hours, 2.5 hours away from OAC, but yeah, no, I make my way down there quite a bit, but
Oh, cool. Very cool.
yeah, no, it's good, man. It's sort of kind of central, I guess, even though it's by the woods. But yeah, well, we'll have to do it, man. And if this goes beyond 2021, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. I swear to God. So
Yeah.
hopefully it's soon.
Man, it's crazy because I just got a taste of like performing and touring and like being with poetry friends for like a few weeks. And then literally my last show, the next day, everything closed down. So I just got like a little taste of that. And I was like super pumped to just do that like the rest of the year. I was like, let's do this. This will be fun. But
Well, just about a year ago, Victor and I went to Cape Girardeau and we read in a gallery called the Catapult. And my friend Rebecca had flown in from New York, and literally, like the day after the reading, they were like, "Don't leave your house, don't go anywhere."
yeah,
And she was still in the airport trying to get home, and it was completely emptied out.
yeah.
yeah, I remember waking up, Johnny, and Rebecca was like getting texts from like the school because she teaches up there, like they're shutting down, they're doing all this, they're doing so yeah, I mean that was like literally like right at the crazy time.
Yeah, if they had planned her reading even like a week later, they would have had to cancel it, I think.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I remember the last reading I did was in Tucson, and I remember texting the coffee shop owner, and I was like, "Should we still do this? I don't know what's gonna happen." And then she was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then the next day, that was like the next day, everything bad happened. So I feel lucky that I was able to at least do a couple shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely missed. I mean, it's a true balance. Like I think the publishing is important, but I also think the travel is important. I had a poet here like a few days ago that was just going on about the travel, and I don't know. In my mind, you can't have one without the other, and
Yeah.
and it's all a really great experience.
For sure, yeah. I mean, just meeting so many cool people and like having those experiences is what I'm really looking most forward to in the future.
Well, I don't know, man. I'm, I'm gonna let you go for now because I know we're getting later. But I will say that when all of that opens up, man, shoot us a message because we'll do it. We will do
Let's
it.
do it. Yeah. And I just want to say again, John, how much it means to me that that we did this tonight. I really needed this and it was such a fun time and I love hanging out with both of you. So thank you.
Well, like I said, I was talking to someone a few weeks ago, and reach out. What I told them is reach out when you need to, and that
Yeah.
goes for you too, and I mean it.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, before we get to do in-person stuff, we should do another like online thing, all of us reading or something.
Yeah, we can plan something. Let's talk. Well, I see Victor next weekend, so after we hang out, let's all talk about it.
Cool. Yeah, just shoot me a message anytime.
Maybe
I'm always kind of driving around. I can hop on Zoom on my phone though sometimes though. So just let me know.
I was gonna say maybe Victor and I could put you on speaker next weekend, and we could just talk a little bit.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah, just
Well,
shoot me a text.
Sounds good. Sounds good. But I'll let you go for now. But I will definitely be in touch very soon. And what I'm going to do on my Facebook page too is put up a link to your book on there because I will get a lot more traffic. And hopefully that sells some books for you. And I know I'm going to buy a copy of one of your books tonight. So.
Oh, thank you so much. You're so sweet, man. Such a kind person.
Well, it's hard sometimes, but I will. But I'll talk to you soon, man. You have a good night.
Yeah, for sure. You as well. I'll talk to you both later. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Later, Austin.
All right. See you guys.
See you, brother. That was pretty fun, man.
Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah. Turned out pretty great.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
Yeah, no, and I think his heart's in the right place too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I can't wait for him to travel with Damien. He's in for an eye opener.
that's right. That's when I heard he was saying with Damien. That's what I was thinking too. But no, I'll be glad for all of us to start traveling again. It'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah. But so how'd the chicken go over?
No, it went over good. Like, yeah, it was pretty good.